The principal looked him in the eye and said firmly, "There's no bullying problem at this school." Just 3 months later, his app revealed the shocking truth. Over 200 reported incidents from that same school, complete with timestamps, locations, and evidence that could no longer be denied. This is the story of a digital revolution started by a teenager who had every reason to give up. When authorities dismissed his suffering, he created a way to make everyone's pain impossible to ignore. Through his innovation, he transformed from a victim into the protector he never had. What if the safest place in your school was the last stall in the third-floor bathroom? For 16-year-old Alex Chen, this wasn't a hypothetical question, but his daily reality. Every day at 12:15, while the cafeteria buzzed with conversation and laughter, Alex would slip unnoticed up the back stairwell, lunch bag clutched tightly against his chest, and make his silent journey to the third-floor bathroom, the one farthest from any classroom, the one teachers rarely monitored. Inside the last stall, he had created a strange semblance of comfort. His backpack hung perfectly on the hook, avoiding the perpetually damp floor. He'd learned to eat silently, mastering the art of unwrapping sandwiches without revealing his presence. The tile was cold and the smell unpleasant, but here he existed as a ghost, invisible to the world that tormented him elsewhere. Alex moved through hallways like water around stones, flowing past Jason Matthews and his friends without drawing attention. To adults, he was merely a quiet Asian student who kept to himself. Yet to his tormentors, he was a beacon impossible to miss. This contradiction followed him like a shadow. As weeks passed, the pressure built like steam in a sealed container. Each day of hiding chipped away at something essential inside him. The breaking point came during his sophomore year. On a Tuesday in October, Jason and 2 friends cornered Alex in the gym locker room, shoving him repeatedly into metal doors until his back bloomed with bruises. Something shifted in Alex that day. A quiet rage propelled him, trembling into the guidance counselor's office. "I need to report something," he said, voice barely audible. Mrs. Ramirez seemed sympathetic, taking notes and promising confidentiality. 3 days later, Jason cornered him. "So I'm a bully, huh?" he sneered. "Mrs. Ramirez's assistant left your report on the copy machine." This betrayal cut deeper than physical threats. The system designed to protect him had exposed him to greater danger. The harassment intensified, his belongings vandalized, anonymous threats arriving at all hours. Each time Alex sought help, adults responded with dismissal. Boys will be boys, or learning to handle conflict builds character. Alex began noticing he wasn't alone. The library housed a freshman hiding during lunch. Certain students flinched when specific groups passed by. Once in his bathroom sanctuary, he heard muffled crying from another stall. They were scattered islands of suffering, each believing their experience unique. During a particularly brutal week, after finding crude drawings plastered across his locker, Alex sat in his bathroom stall with a notebook instead of lunch. His hand moved almost unconsciously, sketching interfaces and flowcharts for an app where students could document incidents anonymously and create accountability. Between moments of fear when footsteps approached, Alex began transforming his greatest vulnerability into something powerful. The invisibility that had been his curse might become his solution. A digital space where being unseen wasn't weakness, but protection. While most teenage bedrooms contain posters of celebrities or gaming setups, Alex's walls transformed into a patchwork of algorithm flowcharts and UI mock-ups, each sticky note representing a moment when the system had failed him. His coding tutorials played quietly through borrowed headphones late into the night, his eyes burning as he translated his trauma into lines of code that might someday protect others. The laptop on his desk wheezed to life each evening, held together with electrical tape and determination. Between daily torments at school and nights immersed in Python and JavaScript, Alex carved out a fragile routine. Code Academy lessons became his refuge, their instructions sometimes blurred by silent tears. "I don't even know what I'm doing," he whispered at 2:17 a.m., when his code crashed for the 7th time. School loomed just hours away, with Jason Matthews likely waiting by the science wing. The thought chilled him. His gaze drifted to the hand-drawn user interface above his desk, a simple screen where someone could report suffering without exposure. He wiped his face and began again. His bedroom evolved into a development studio. Childhood memorabilia gave way to database diagrams. His desk drawer filled with interview notes gathered in whispered conversations. Emily from English class described being cyberbullied through anonymous accounts. Behind the gym, Raj explained how teachers didn't see when football players shoved him into lockers. These covert meetings revealed patterns adults missed. The bullies operated in blind spots, camera-free stairwells, brief windows between classes, substitute teacher days. Alex mapped these patterns meticulously, each data point becoming another feature in his growing prototype. The breakthrough came during his third month. Frustrated by an authentication problem, Alex found himself sketching the school's reporting form, the same one that had exposed his name to Jason. The solution crystallized. His app needed to become an unimpeachable witness. "Evidence," he murmured. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he built a secure upload system for photos and videos. He added timestamp authentication, location tagging, and algorithms that could correlate reports across time and space. The system would map incidents, identifying hotspots and repeat offenders through anonymized data. On a freezing January night, while snow collected on his windowsill, Alex compiled his first working prototype. The interface was crude but functional, a design that wouldn't draw attention if glimpsed on someone's phone. His hands trembled as he documented his recent encounter with Jason's group, the accidental shoulder check that had sent him sprawling that morning. He attached a photo of his bruised elbow, added details, and hit submit. Seconds later, he switched to the administrator view. There it was, report number 0001, complete with time-stamped evidence and location data. The prototype worked. In that moment, Alex transformed from victim to developer who had created something that mattered. Every feature addressed a failure in the system that had abandoned him. Each line of code became armor against his past. The encryption protocols answered the breached confidentiality. The evidence collection countered dismissals from administrators. The pattern recognition fought the isolation that made each victim feel alone. He'd built the shield he never had. The shield Alex built was architecture for a world where silence no longer protected predators. At first glance, a student using SafeSpace might appear to be checking social media or playing a game, its unassuming icon blending seamlessly among other apps. This invisibility was precisely the point. Unlike traditional reporting methods that exposed vulnerable students, SafeSpace operated in plain sight while remaining functionally invisible to those who might interfere with its purpose. Upon opening the app, users faced no login barriers, a deliberate choice to eliminate any friction that might prevent a student in crisis from seeking help. Instead, a simple, muted interface greeted them with three options: report incident, view resources, or emergency alert. The design prioritized minimal interaction, no more than 3 taps from opening to submission, creating a digital sanctuary where students could document their experiences even when they had only seconds before returning to unsafe environments. SafeSpace's revolutionary core was its sophisticated trust architecture, built like a digital fortress with multiple layers of protection. Traditional reporting systems created an impossible dilemma: risk exposure or remain silent. SafeSpace eliminated this choice through a dual-layer verification system that authenticated reports while preserving anonymity. Students could submit evidence, photos, screenshots, audio recordings, which retained their evidentiary value while a security envelope stripped away, revealing metadata, replacing it with encrypted verification markers. 15-year-old Jamie demonstrated the system's efficiency when she discovered threatening messages across her locker. Huddled in a bathroom stall, she opened SafeSpace, tapped Report, photographed the vandalism, and added a brief description. The app tagged the location, time-stamped the submission, and categorized the incident. Jamie received an anonymized case number, all within 40 seconds. Beneath this simple interface lay a sophisticated data ecosystem, transforming isolated incidents into actionable patterns. Where human perception might miss connections, safe spaces algorithms identified convergences. Recurring locations, time periods showing activity spikes or individuals mentioned across seemingly unrelated cases. The encryption protocols formed an impenetrable barrier between reporters and potential exposure, addressing the very vulnerability that had betrayed Alex himself. Even administrators with full system access couldn't identify reporters without explicit permission through a secure consent process. Most crucial was the accountability engine transforming how reports were handled. Each submission generated a digital paper trail with strict timelines, 24 hours for initial review, 72 hours for action plan development, 1 week for resolution documentation. If deadlines passed without action, automatic escalations triggered, ensuring incidents couldn't disappear into administrative black holes. For emergencies requiring immediate intervention, safe space routed alerts to designated first responders, counselors, security personnel, and trained teachers equipped to handle sensitive situations with appropriate care. The power of safe space emerged from these interconnected elements, creating a complete ecosystem of accountability. Together, these features transformed the broken power dynamic that had allowed bullying to flourish. The asymmetry between isolated victims and a system designed to minimize problems rather than solve them. The accountability engine that made safe space revolutionary would soon become its greatest liability in the eyes of school administrators. What Alex hadn't accounted for was a simple, devastating reality. His app wouldn't just expose bullies, it would expose the adults who had failed to stop them. Alex stood outside Principal Mercer's office, clutching his laptop with white knuckles. 20 minutes into his demonstration, the temperature in the room had dropped from lukewarm interest to frigid resistance. "While I appreciate your initiative, Alex," Principal Mercer said, folding his hands on the desk, "there's simply no bullying problem at this school that would warrant such an elaborate system." The words struck Alex like a physical blow. He glanced involuntarily at Vice Principal Davis, whose eyes shifted away. Just last week, this same administrator had seen Alex's torn backpack and suggested he be more careful with his belongings. "The data would be anonymous," Alex pressed on. "It would only help identify patterns." "Patterns of what?" Principal Mercer interrupted. "Fabricated reports from students with grudges. This system seems designed to create problems rather than solve them." What followed was a painful journey through institutional resistance. Over the next 2 months, Alex approached 7 schools in neighboring districts. The pattern was consistent. Safe space threatened the carefully maintained facade of control. At Westridge High, the superintendent worried about encouraging victim mentality. At Eastview Academy, the board cited concerns about unnecessary surveillance. The personal cost of this systemic rejection became painfully clear when Alex opened a rejection email from Lincoln Prep while sitting in the nurse's office with an ice pack pressed against his ribs, courtesy of an accidental collision in the hallway that the nurse dismissed as a sports injury despite Alex's well-known aversion to athletics. What administrators wouldn't say explicitly was that safe space represented a fundamental threat to institutional stability. The app would create a permanent record of incidents that couldn't be minimized or explained away, forcing accountability on a system designed to prioritize reputation over student welfare. The breakthrough came from Ms. Rosenberg, a veteran counselor at Alex's school. "They're afraid of what your app might reveal," she said quietly. "But I know someone at Riverview who isn't." Ms. Rosenberg connected him with Riverview High, a school under public pressure after a bullying scandal. With her recommendation, Alex secured a 3-month pilot program. Understanding this might be his only chance, Alex developed a robust analytics framework. "Data will speak louder than any testimony," he told Ms. Rosenberg. "They can't argue with numbers." The pilot launched with minimal fanfare. By the end of the first week, Riverview's Safe Space dashboard had logged 37 incidents. By the end of the first month, the count reached 192. The administration's initial skepticism transformed into stunned silence as patterns emerged. Repeat offenders with 15 or more reports, unmonitored locations during specific periods, and certain teachers' classrooms where incidents spiked dramatically. The undeniable evidence revealed what had been happening in their hallways, locker rooms, and digital spaces all along. Beneath those cold statistics lay something far more profound than Alex had anticipated when building his app. Behind each anonymous report was a student who, perhaps for the first time, believed someone might actually listen, a belief that would spark a revolution no one at Riverview saw coming. 4 months into the Safe Space pilot at Riverview High, Principal Garrett called an emergency meeting with his administrative team. The fluorescent lights of the conference room cast harsh shadows across faces as they stared at projections displaying what could no longer be denied. 237 documented incidents, each report meticulously categorized, time-stamped, and geotagged within the school's grounds. "I specifically remember telling the board we had our bullying situation under control," Principal Garrett said, his voice cracking as he studied the heat map. The bottom floor of the East Wing, previously considered a model corridor, glowed an alarming red. How did we miss this? These aren't just statistics, these are our students suffering. The transformation began with deliberate changes. Security staff were reassigned to monitor previously overlooked areas during passing periods. The band hallway, which had accumulated 43 reports, received camera installations. The girls' locker room schedule was restructured after the app revealed a 15-minute window responsible for 27 documented incidents. What shocked administrators most was the distribution of reports. Students from every social circle were using Safe Space. The quiet honor student reporting harassment in AP chemistry, the star quarterback documenting homophobic slurs, the chronically absent freshman finally revealing why she couldn't face school. For Alex, watching Riverview implement changes was surreal. "The students trust it," Ms. Kaminsky wrote in her 5th report. "They're using it for daily microaggressions that seemed too small to bother adults with." By the 4th month, teacher behavior patterns emerged in the data. When Mr. Collins took sick days, bullying incidents tripled. During Ms. Peterson's planning period, reports spiked dramatically. These findings led to faculty training that transformed classroom management. The most profound transformation occurred among students themselves. New behavioral norms emerged as consequences became consistent. The knowledge that evidence could appear on an administrator's dashboard created accountability that no anti-bullying assembly had achieved. For 6 of Riverview's most prolific bullies, intervention meetings backed by irrefutable documentation became wake-up calls. Academic performance improved. Attendance rates climbed 12%. Test scores showed improvement, particularly among previously absent students. The nurse reported a 23% decrease in stress-related visits. For Alex, the most meaningful feedback came through messages. "I ate lunch in the cafeteria today for the first time in 2 years," one read. Another stated, "I didn't cry before coming to school this morning." 6 months after implementation, Riverview's findings were unequivocal. A 67% reduction in bullying incidents. What initially appeared as a spike in bullying had transformed into a sustained decline as the landscape at Riverview fundamentally changed. Riverview's stunning results rippled through the academic community, transforming Alex's phone into a relentless beacon of hope. Superintendents and principals from districts he'd never visited suddenly appeared in his inbox and voicemail, their messages tinged with a desperate urgency. "Your app could save lives at our school," read one email. "We've had 3 suicide attempts this semester alone." As neighboring districts caught wind of the unprecedented reduction in bullying incidents, Safe Space evolved from a bedroom coding project into a digital shield, illuminating hidden corners of school hallways, a movement rapidly outgrowing its creator. Alex stared at his phone, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. How could he manage this demand while still attending the school where his wounds remained fresh? He still flinched when passing certain hallways where memories lingered like persistent ghosts. "I need help," Alex admitted to Mrs. Ramirez during their weekly check-in. His confession marked a turning point. Within days, a volunteer team formed organically around Safe Space's mission. Zach, a senior whose younger brother faced bullying, brought exceptional coding skills. Megan, once a victim of relentless cyberbullying who had transferred schools twice, redesigned the reporting interface. Most surprising was Tyler's involvement, a former bully whose transformation came through Safe Space itself. After being reported and undergoing counseling, Tyler provided critical insights about the system's blind spots. "The harassment happens when teachers think they're watching but aren't really seeing," Tyler explained. "Like when Mr. Rogers grades papers but keeps his head down for 15 minutes straight." This insider knowledge transformed monitoring recommendations, converting former hunting grounds into protected spaces. Student testimonials validated Safe Space's impact. "I used to throw up every Sunday night thinking about Monday morning," wrote a sophomore. "Now I sleep through the night. Just knowing I have a way to report what's happening makes me feel like I exist again." Another stated, "For the first time in 3 years, I didn't have to calculate alternate routes between classes." At the Northwestern Regional Technology Fair, a girl in a blue hoodie approached Alex's booth. "Your app saved my life last month. They were threatening to post altered pictures of me online," she said, emotion behind her eyes. "The counselor intervened because of my Safe Space report. I'm still here." She squeezed his hand briefly before disappearing, leaving Alex profoundly changed. As requests mounted, the team enhanced Safe Space with crisis counseling connections and added Digital Sanctuary, a secure space where users could store documentation until ready to take action. Within Alex's own school, teachers now consulted him on bullying prevention. Students approached with questions or quiet acknowledgement. When a freshman called him the app guy instead of his old cruel nickname, Alex recognized a milestone in his healing. "The most important metric isn't in the dashboard," Alex explained to visiting administrators. "It's in the students who walk differently, head up, shoulders relaxed, because they know they're not alone anymore." In the quietest moments, true innovation emerges not from corporate boardrooms, but from painful experiences that shape us. Alex's Safe Space grew from bathroom stalls and silent suffering, encoded with knowledge only someone who lived through invisibility could create. What makes this remarkable is how Alex transformed his wounds into shields for others. The world is full of anti-bullying programs that miss the mark because they're designed by those who've never felt the crushing weight of systematic erasure. Alex's solution worked because it addressed the true heart of bullying, not just the violence, but the silence afterward. In giving voice to the voiceless, he didn't just create technology. He created testimony that pain, when channeled, can protect future generations from shadows he once called home.